If you want to write a made-for-TV Christmas movie, this book might be for you. Today I am reviewing, it's beginning to look a lot like Hallmark, How to Write a Made-for-TV Christmas Movie by Kate Wharton and Heather Hughes. In this video, I'm going to start by kind of going over the table of contents and explaining what's in it. Then I'm going to do pros and cons, and then I'm going to explain my personal experience with the book, what my goals were in reading it, and whether those were met. So, first off, we have to talk about the authors, Kate Wharton and Heather Hughes. I have not gone into huge research detail on them. However, they have, and very obviously, have written movies for Hallmark, Disney, and Lifetime. So they have a lot of experience in this area. They also have been called on by networks to rewrite certain movies. And so I think they can be considered more or less an expert in this field. This book is about how to write they call it a CCR, a cozy Christmas romance, aka a Hallmark movie. The book covers the 10 steps needed to write this movie and get it ultimately published, starting from choosing your subgenre to studying the genre to writing a logline, all the way down to marketing and selling your script. So let's get into this. The first thing it does is it breaks down the subgenres of the CCR category. Those are everything from successful girl goes back to small town, the switcheroo, fake relationship, magic Christmas, Christmas royalty, snowstorms, Christmas cynic. They have a really great description of all of these subgenres as well as examples that you can go and then look up. Then they tell you, and this is really good advice, basically it's the masterwork advice from StoryGrid, if you're familiar with that at all, about watching a couple of these movies and taking notes on them to learn how the subgenre works and learn the conventions of that story. They then give you a beat sheet template, which is really, really cool. It has 14 beats on it, and I believe is pretty heavily adapted, not heavily adapted, it's adapted from the Save the Cat beat sheet. It seems to me, they don't say this. You know, they have the opening image, the setup, the pondering, the debate, meet cute, break into act two, fun and games. Again, all of these things, bad guys, close in, etc., are from Save the Cat, but they have adopted it and added more detail for the Christmas genre and added things like a Cinderella moment and an almost kiss. They've also really gone through and broken down the finale and how it works for this genre. I think their descriptions of the beats are super straightforward and easy to understand and very helpful for someone who wants to plot a story. And then they have things like creating a scene list, writing your first draft, rewriting, editing, registering the script, and then how to research and market it to producers. That is just, I thought it ended there. So I was getting my hair done and I read all of that till when it says Christmas wrap up. And then there's things that say like resources and such. And I thought, okay, I finished the book. But actually, a huge part of the value of this book is after the Christmas wrap up, where they list, I kid you not, there must be over 200 Hallmark movies listed from the years 2017 through to 2021 with descriptions. For the 2021 ones, they have a contains in it, which gives you a little bit more information. And they also offer a little bit of analysis of trends and such that they are seeing in 2021. It's an incredibly detailed listing of all the Hallmark movies for many, many years. And I think that is going to save you so much research. Under resources, they have a glossary of terms they use, as well as 3 filled out example beat sheets for movies of different subgenres. Again, I almost missed all of that. I was incredibly focused. I thought I got to the end of the book. Don't stop there. There's tons of material. So there's a lot in this book, which is pretty good. And interestingly, it's not a huge long read. As I said, I read the bulk of the information while I was getting my hair done and then the supplemental information later. It cost me about 10 Canadian dollars for the ebook. Not bad. All right, let's talk about some pros and cons here. So the pros, number one, and I think the biggest pro of this book, the authors are incredibly industry aware. And for someone who wants to write and publish a made-for-TV Christmas movie, that is super important. They do things like address rumors. So there's one bit where they explain that last year, readers reached out to them saying a network circulated a memo saying they didn't want scripts with musical elements, reigniting X flames, or restoring spaces. It listed specific professions to avoid, including dessert makers and musicians. And then they kind of counteract that and say, this memo was a lie. Look at all of these movies that contained these elements. So they're very up in the rumor mill and the trends and whatever is happening with these companies, even ones that aren't particularly true, but they know the market incredibly well. They also do a good analysis of themes and trends in the 2021 Christmas movies that I think would be really useful. I won't spoil it, but they point out how some of the Christmas movies that we're seeing are a little bit different, and it looks like the market might be changing a little bit. The second pro is step by step of what to do, including how to do your own analysis. I think people will find that easy. Hey, it's only 10 steps. Go ahead. I like how they broke that down. Step number 3, there's great recommendations for where to learn more. Step number 4, or pro number 4, the descriptions of the Hallmark Christmas movies from 2017 to 2021. I think that compiling those is incredibly valuable. Like, it doesn't, obviously, there have been Netflix movies and other networks also creating Christmas movies, but Hallmark is the center, and you could supplement it with your own analysis of Netflix and such. And I think, yeah, that's an amazing resource. I wish there was one of those for books. Like, that is really, really good. They also, another pro, they really remind you of movie considerations and things you might not think of as a new screenwriter. Things like, let the casting director worry about how the character looks, or consider the budget, which is usually quite small for a movie, for these movies. They, sixth, are we on six? The sixth pro is they clearly outline all the conventions and do's and don'ts. They're literally writing down the unwritten rules. I think it is, again, super helpful. Pro number 7, it's fast to read. I read it while getting my hair done. It's enjoyable. And the authors have self-awareness. They state in the beginning that, everybody wants to write the next Casablanca, not necessarily the next Christmas movie. And as they point things out, they are, in a minute I'll talk about this, but they'll say things like, yeah, we know this is weird, but this is what the networks want. And I really appreciate that. The last pro is, as I said earlier, they clearly spell out the audience in the introduction. Again, mad respect to them for being like, this is what you're gonna get. They tell you, and then they give it to you, and then they give you even more than you expected with that resource list at the end. So it's very good. In terms of cons, the only one I could really think of, thinking of it from the audience perspective, could use some supplemental materials. And they mention that they have supplemental resources in the book. They suggest you read Save the Cat. They suggest you read tips on using how to format a screenplay, that kind of thing. So you probably want a few other resources tossed in this one before you try to write a script. But all in all, this is a super valuable book for the audience. Now, this is when I'm going to indulge myself for a while, because I got to be honest with you. I thought I liked Christmas movies. I've seen some of them. I like them. My favorite Christmas movies are, however, maybe not the movies that they're targeting. Like, I love The Santa Claus. I love Unaccompanied Minors. I love Happiest Season. I love Elf. Who doesn't love Elf? Deck the Halls, Christmas with the Cranks. Those are my favorite Christmas movies and the ones that I want to watch every year. I am not the person who is sitting there watching Hallmark's Countdown to Christmas. Let's just say that. I am not the target audience. I am not critiquing the book. I am not critiquing the people who watch them. I understand you want wholesome, you want lighthearted, all of that. But ladies and gentlemen, this shit is bananas. I am going to treat you to a number of quotes from this book. In general, keep the magic light, benevolent, and limited to Santa and angels. As producer Jeff Schneck told The Hollywood Reporter in 2019, there's a whole list of boxes you have to check off. They've got to do a snow activity, like a snowball toss or a sledding toss. You have to have the cookie baking scene. You must never, ever, in any Christmas movie, have any character say or suggest that Santa doesn't exist, not even as a joke. We wanted to include a scene where a glass of red wine was spilled on our guy's white shirt. After much discussion, we had the guy say, "I usually don't drink," before he accepted the glass. Then it spilled, so he remained sober. Phew! In retrospect, a better solution would have been for him to spill hot cocoa, because you can't have alcohol in Hallmark Christmas movies. Try to include a pet in your script. The Hallmark Channel openly promotes pet adoption, so it never hurts to build in a subplot about a rescued dog or cat. Generally, there are no open-mouthed kisses in Hallmark movies unless it's a soldier returning from war. Like, you just returned from war, you can have a little tongue. Then there's a list of jobs not suited to a cozy Christmas romance. Anything intellectually complex, such as an actuarial analyst, a cross-stack software developer, nanotechnology, or a chemical engineer. And look, I understand this, but I'm an engineer, and I was reading it, and I was like, my job can never be in a Christmas movie? Part of why they say that is because they want the jobs or the hobbies or whatever it is to be visually appealing because it is a movie. And again, that's what people want. That's totally fine. Sure, amazing. But it does call into question, like, what values our society is maybe perpetuating, where these things are the only things we can have, if that makes sense. Although I will say, they do mention in the book that you can have all kinds of, genders here, and they just use girl and guy for, I don't know, convention or something. So that, that's useful. In one of the beat sheets, there is a moment of, I guess, insight for one of the characters. I wish maybe I can find this. Darcy, yes. In the beat sheet, Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe, which is a hometown Christmas movie, in the beat, buddy or mentor, it says, Darcy's brother comes home with his pregnant wife. Darcy is thrilled for them and tells her brother that she envies how he has it all figured out while she feels unsettled. I don't know how this is portrayed in the movie, but just on a note, I'm not going to rant about it because I ranted to my dog for like 2 hours after I read this. Just because someone is married and has a wife who's pregnant and married and has babies, it doesn't mean they have life all figured out. And the fact that that is there, and in so many of these movies, such as, and also on so much of TV, like The Bachelor, like the number one goal in life is to get married and have babies, is, moving on. Why did I read this book in the first place? So I am planning for myself, if I'm able to get the third draft of my novel done in November as part of NaNoWriMo, my gift to myself is to write a fun, lighthearted, like almost wish fulfillment level Christmas short story in December that I can just play around with and have fun with. This book came on my radar for some reason, I can't remember how, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna write a Christmas short story. Why don't I read this book? Like, it's only $10. Cool. So what did I take away from it? I was not the target audience. I have no plan to write a CCR, and reading the conventions, like, not even just there's no alcohol and there's no open mouth kissing, but just the fact that it has to be so vanilla, shall we say, and lighthearted, and you can't get into any, in these movies in particular, you can't get, it's rare that you're able to get into any more sort of complex themes. Those constraints are great for some people. Those constraints are not going to work for my brain. I am not interested in writing one of these stories. That's just me. That's my interest. I'm not interested. There's nothing wrong. Like, we're not saying it's low art or high art or anything like that. I'm not interested. And that's what this book taught me. I'm going to stay away from Hallmark Christmas movies with a 10-foot pole. I have no interest in watching them or writing them. Watching them while I'm doing a puzzle or something, sure, but writing them, absolutely not. It's not for me. However, I did get a few insights and ideas for my own story. I liked sort of the Christmas cynic subgenre, which is an interesting take. A woman who dislikes Christmas must learn to love it, or at least convince someone that she does love it, because nobody can dislike Christmas in cozy Christmas romance land. Just like nobody can not believe in Santa Claus. This is so weird. Anyways, but that was a good idea, and I was like, maybe one of my characters, like, it made me think in those lines. It's a cool trope. It's a trope I could use. It's a trope we could spin. And then the other one that I found was there's usually some sort of competition in these, like win the baking competition, I'm thinking of the Christmas Princess Switch or the Princess Vanessa Hudgens was in it. Anyways, there's a baking contest, there's a dancing contest, there's a big event, there's something that they have to do and like perform at. There's usually elements of the performance genre in these cozy Christmas movies, and I was like, that could work. Because as I was reading a book recently, Meg Cabot's Allie Finkel's Rules for Girls, in the first one, there's a great cupcake fight scene. And I was like, I would love to do that with some kids in high school, and it will be Christmas time, and there could be gingerbread. And then it said competition, and I thought, I can have my food fight at a gingerbread house contest. How perfect is that? So I won't say I got nothing out of this book. It was a fun read, if not a little weird. However, it really has opened my eyes a little bit to the different genres of Christmas movies and to some of the priorities of these different networks and some ideas just around like, hey, if you're writing a Christmas story, people want everything to be Christmassy, which makes sense. So overall, maybe not the perfect book for me, but it might be for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.